Just for that view of the weight.
Anyhow.
Oh, no.
Maybe another year it'll be a president. I know. Full place. Quite a big chassis for them.
That's it.
Way back.
All right, 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the March 2nd, 2026 Credit River City Council meeting. We will begin with approving or amending the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda tonight? I think Abe, you've got one. Okay, 3.5, approving the task order for the 2050 comp plan from MSA will become 7.4 under general business. Any other changes in the agenda tonight? Otherwise, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Leroy.
Second.
Thank you, Abe. Motion by Schomer, second by Zonto to approve the agenda with the one change. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, we'll go to consent agenda. Those items on the council agenda which are considered routine or non-controversial are included as part of the consent agenda. Unless a council member specifically requests that an item on the consent agenda be removed and considered separately, items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, a second, and a vote. Any item removed from consent agenda shall be placed at the end of general business. Tonight on consent agenda, we have 3.1 minutes from the February 17th, 2026 City Council meeting. 3.2 approve resolution 2026-11, accepting the infrastructure improvements and releasing the financial security for the ranch of Credit River. 3.3 approve resolution 2026-09, Simonet Edition preliminary and final plats. 3.4 approve a master service agreement and task order for MSA General Planning Services. 3.6 approve payment of claims and transfer requests as presented. Is there anything that anybody would like to remove from consent agenda? Otherwise, I'll take a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Thank you, Bill.
Second.
All right, motion by Markert, second by Sutterbach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Open forum. The public forum will be intended to afford the public an opportunity to address concerns to the council. The public forum will be no longer than 30 minutes in length, and each presenter will have no more than 5 minutes to speak. Topics of discussion are restricted to local governmental topics rather than private or political agendas. The council may discuss but will not take formal action on the public forum, and you guys are all lucky to have the enforcer step up, sign up, and to be on public forum tonight. And
7210 165th Street East. Not that it matters, but I've lived in Credit River for 40 years. I want to address the lunches for the election judges. Sorry, Bill. I don't think it matters what the other cities do. So that might have been a waste of staff time, finding out what the other cities do. The thing to do is the right thing. Buy them lunch. You're not just buying lunch, you're buying goodwill. And some of you need some goodwill. And if you choose not to, that's fine. I will buy them Subway sandwiches if you choose not to. So that being said, applause from the audience, please. That's what I got.
thank you, Vern.
Thanks, sir.
Anybody else for open forum tonight? Seeing none, we'll close open forum and move into presentations. We have a presentation tonight from Natural Systems on the CSTS year-end reviews. Do you want to step up to the podium there, please, Tyler? And
good evening. Some of you have met me before, some of you haven't. My name is Tyler Gagne. I'm the regional manager
for natural systems. I've been involved with the Credit River CSTS system since 2015. We just sent out our year-end review or year-end reports. It's a really good document. Really highly encourage you all to go through it in detail. There's way more than I can cover. Some of it technical, some of it not. So I'm just gonna try to hit on some of the highlights and see, you know, if there's any questions. So from a high level, in 2025, we completed year 2 of 3 of drain field jetting of the CSTS system. To remind everybody, that is to clean all the drain field laterals, and then we go through and we readjust the distribution. It's really a once in 10-15 years maintenance activity that really just makes sure we have longevity in the system.
When you say year 2 of 3, so have we done all 4 or have we done a couple?
So 2026, we will wrap up. We'll be year 3 of 3. So we've done a third each year.
Okay.
Last year was year 2. This will be year 3 and conclude the rest of the fields.
Okay.
So South Passage, going through the individual systems, South Passage is done because they only have 2 drain field zones. Monterey Heights, the control panel is, and I'll say for all the systems, the control panel is having some issues. Overall, the systems are aging. Most of the control panels, except South Passage, which is running on a cellular modem, run off an analog phone line. They are original to the systems. They have essentially reached their usable lifespan. They are working, but replacement parts, should they go down, are not really available for any analog phone line. So Monterey Heights, there were some issues. There's also some trees of note that need to be removed, mainly large cottonwoods that have been there for years. It would benefit the systems to have those removed.
Tyler, how many trees are we talking in there?
A handful.
Okay.
And some have been communicated, some have not. I believe South Passage has a few. We collected quotes a few years back. You know, so it's been discussed. It's one of those items that probably needs to come back on the list and discuss with my guys and the council to make sure we have it in the budget and get, because I know some of it's been, so. Stonebridge, so nitrogen, I know is the hot topic at that one. I know Shane, there was a report put together on Stonebridge. Overall, I know there's future plans, and I would just say NSU would like to be part of the conversation. We are a full design, build, own, operate company. We are upgrading our own infrastructure. We think we have differing opinions to some of the previous design engineer. I think the report shows that the nitrogen treatment is maybe doesn't need quite the extent of overhaul that has been suggested in the past. So without being an engineer myself, I don't want to over assert anything, but I would just encourage you guys to work with your engineers, Shane, and we would like to be a part of those conversations as well, because I do think we have some innovative solutions that we could bring forward. Flow, there was a lot of time on flow and flow violations and helping some of the homeowners in that development with those flow violations, flow exceedances, excuse me. And good improvement was made with respect to flows to that system.
What system was that again?
Bridge.
Oh, you're still on Stonebridge? Okay, thanks.
Getting into territory 2 and 3. Flows have also been of concern. I know that's one that we flagged up. I really pushed the team hard to look into that. And understand that when we talk about flow, we're talking about flow that's, it's a calculation based on how much the pumps to the drain field run. So there can be a number of factors that affect the flow. So if a pump is running and counting runtime, but not actually delivering the water or the calculated water, that can artificially raise flows. But you got to work through the mechanicals and the calculations, and we also looked at the incoming flow from the step systems, and I feel like we made really good progress this year and got those kind of to a level that we believe to be accurate. Besides that, overall, and this applies to almost all the systems except South Passage, the systems are all aging. The list of repairs and maintenance was extensive this year. There's a lot. Now every year is not going to be like that, but obviously an aging system is going to require more work. So this 2025 was a heavy repairs, maintenance, broken pipes in the drain field, pump failures, control panel issues. Not any one thing in particular, but a collage across the spectrum. Control panels are really the thing that are gonna be necessary to replace over the next, I would say, 5 years, and have more significant capital expense than, say, a pump. The other item is the Advantex pod lids. They're fiberglass, and they are degraded by the sun. So those are another item that should, will need to be replaced, I'd say, over the next 5+ years. It can be done in phases, and if there is a significant expense, given they're a custom product, with limited suppliers. So
Tyler, is there a different product out there other than the fiberglass? Is there any kind of a polymer or something that to replace those with?
That's a good question. We are working with a client right now on doing something out of PVC. Just out of kind of, more materials that you would get from a home improvement store to see. So we're trying to innovate. We're also working with a local fiberglass custom manufacturer to try to have lids built, custom lids that are not OEM, but equivalents. Again, part of this is driven by, we own some of our own systems. We have these same issues. So we're constantly trying to innovate and figure out ways of driving down cost and not, but keeping the quality the same. So it's difficult, being that it's a custom product, and you go outside of the OEM and there's not much to kind of cover you. So that's really what I have for the system. One last thing is, we did mow the system this year. This was our first year mowing the CSTS systems. Overall went well. I think hours and cost wise, we were approximately where we estimated we would be. And so yeah, if that's something we're willing to take on this year and into the future if the city wishes to continue. So that's really what I have, unless you guys have questions for me.
Perfect. Council, staff, any questions for Tyler?
I just want,
Jay.
just to clarify, when you were talking about maintenance all over, you're talking about all your systems, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I would exclude South Passage to some extent, South Passage was, relatively, low on the list in terms of maintenance, being it has a lot newer components.
Yeah, I wasn't sure when you were just
Mhm.
talking because you were giving that information when you were talking about territories.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah,
that's what I thought. So,
Anything abnormal when you're doing the jetting? Found just,
no, actually, pleasant surprises in terms of less solids accumulation than I would have expected.
mhm,
There is some, I guess, just based on vegetation, you see there are some fields that are quite imbalanced, and so, you know, that wasn't too unexpected in terms of, you know, you see the vegetation difference on some of the mounds and,
mhm.
you know, and then you run the balances, it's like, yeah, this is getting a lot more than this one, and you balance them out.
Yeah. And then the control panels, especially the one that's still running analog, I didn't realize we still were paying for a phone line somewhere.
Yep, and that's Monterey Heights, that's Stonebridge, and all
Yeah.
4 territories.
I thought we converted all those years ago.
No, and you know, so Stonebridge is kind of assumed that that would be part of a system upgrade, so
Yeah.
that would be taken care of then, and then territory 2 and 3. With, you know, some of the discussions of Yellowstone and some of the improvements, kind of assumed that would be part of those improvements as well, so you're talking, you know, Monterey Heights and Creek Territory, probably about 4 panels that are, you know, more of a question mark in terms of when.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
and
did you have something? Oh, sorry, go ahead. I saw you trying to turn your microphone on.
No,
But-
Leroy was going through.
Yeah, no, Shane was trying to turn his microphone on.
Yeah, I was gonna inquire, so you said you made a lot of progress toward the
Sure.
full exceedance. Are there any stragglers out there that the city needs to kind of step up enforcement on, or?
Yeah, I think, I know Rob had some follow-up, I'd have to, I need to circle back to where that ended. Overall, there's, and believe it or not, there's poor education as regards to, how much flow people can put into the system. There is, you know, the idea of a flow, exceedance is kind of foreign in terms of their systems. But for the most part, people were receptive, responsive. But I think there were a couple that were, may have remained unresolved. So I'll circle back to that, and we'll get in touch with, Steve and send some of that information through.
Yep, sounds good.
Perfect. Hang on, Leroy's first.
Well, I just want to say, great job, buddy, doing mowing this year, looked great, so.
Good, glad you liked it.
did you identify any particular things that were causing the heavier flows?
Yep,
You don't have to get specific, but just
yeah, so, sump pumps, surface drainage, were some of the big ones. You know, some of them were false positives, where it's like, oh, you weren't here all winter. It was frozen, and just again, how flow is calculated, so, it was a mixed bag, but yeah, we definitely resolved some issues. You know, there's a lot of people who aren't at their homes all year round, and things happen. So, quite a few of them were, you know, I would say, you know, about 50% were one-off, and 50% was more chronic.
Hmm.
Tried working through those issues.
thank you.
So on one of your reports, Monterey Heights specifically, there's addresses, there's multiple times that you're going out and fixing something. Do we bill the homeowner for those repairs if they're specific to the home?
Correct.
Okay, so
Yeah.
not the whole.
It's all,
Sys-
it's all passed through the city. Our contract is with the city, so the city passes through those invoices to the homeowners. NSU invoices the city,
Okay,
and then the city, and we provide those, and we also provide a mock invoice when we, to the city, for those services.
Okay, so we know, we don't have to guess. We know exactly how much and what that homeowner is gonna be billed for.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And part of that's just how the contract is structured. We're not structured to invoice homeowners directly.
Yeah.
So it's set up as a pass through, and then because it is invoiced to the city, we document it all thoroughly. And we also provide it, on these reports as, you know,
Okay,
to give visibility to it, so there's not questions about what's going on, and what work's being done.
so if you were us, who is responsible for these, what keeps you up at night? What would be your number one concern with either any of the four or all four? Is there anything that we're not looking into and we should be by now because something's gonna happen, or are we doing okay?
So I guess the biggest thing that worries me is cost. Of. the
Well, we worry
system.
about that too.
Yeah. Believe me, we're aligned on that, and
Yeah.
so, you know, not, you know, I never wanna recommend things that don't need to be done. So it's like these control panels, it's like, at what point do you recommend replacing something that's working?
Right, you're gonna
Right.
tell us though, when we, right, you're gonna tell us in advance, like, hey, you better get on this. Because I read I skim your reports because they're really long and detailed. I don't know what like what the burning issues are, like what we have.
And
to
there's a section, Bill, right, that says 2026 permit maintenance considerations. That's one of those highlight sections.
Yeah,
Skip through all the technical stuff, go right to the,
okay.
right to the juice there, right at the.
I may have stopped going through it to get to the bottom. Maybe we should have that on top.
Good feedback.
Yeah, yeah,
I know, so yeah, obviously we collect a ton of data. We wanna provide that, but yeah, it's formatting wise, I do believe we made some changes where there's like 50 groundwater monitoring wells, and I think we tried putting that data in the back, cause it's not many hydrologists reviewing it, so. But overall, you know, like Stonebridge is one that, you know, I think about. And it's really difficult because it's like,
that's the one with
Something
20
needs-
homes. Is that the one with 20 homes
32
or 32?
at Stonebridge, and obviously they're staring down a significant upgrade. And there's a balance though between taking a sledgehammer to a nail, but making sure you pound it down, and so it's not gonna show its head again. I think, right, the first time around, it was kind of tapped on, and obviously that didn't fix the issue, and I feel like the opposite is now true, where there's, you know, a massive solution in place for something that's maybe not quite that magnitude, so. But I mean, overall, the systems are they don't really keep me up at night. They're pretty solid all around. They've had continued investment, continued maintenance. Lots of green space, which is beneficial to the compliance of the systems. Obviously, Stonebridge, the property boundary butts right up next to it, so that's where some of those violations come from, so.
Okay,
And Tyler, with Stonebridge, we had talked earlier or sometime last fall. And that you had some flow exceedances in Stonebridge. And when the flow went down, the nitrates also went down. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so maybe that's something, you know, at this point, we haven't reevaluated that yet with ST Consulting, but. Their last design was for the, you know, the kind of the old parameters.
Mhm.
And so.
Yeah,
Because-
I think it's always important to gather, you know, when you're gathering real-time data to reevaluate based
Right.
on the data, the best available data that you have, so.
Yeah.
are you saying it could have been just a few properties that were causing the high nitrates, and then when the flow dropped in those properties, the nitrates dropped?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say they caused it, exacerbated it, potentially, yes. And that can also exacerbate then the potential solution. In terms of you're not designing for a bigger problem, a bigger flow. So that can also change the scope of the solution
Okay,
to be bigger.
Tyler, one thing in Stonebridge, we still have to repair the fence in there, right?
Yeah, I
Quite a
believe
bit of
so.
that down.
Or tear it down altogether. No, there should be a fence and, it's been talked about. My problem is my contractor form. People have to, it's quite extensive for me to subcontract and fence guys are just like, yeah, no. So, it's not something I can really, assist with, so it's something I'd
Okay.
encourage the city to hire a contractor directly.
Okay. And what, Bill, one of the reasons, since these guys have been doing it for, the way they do their billing is so that we have a good record, so we can put it back against
Mhm.
the taxes, so
Right.
If they don't pay.
to be reimbursed, yeah.
Yep, they don't pay.
Yep. All right. Anything else? Thank you, Tyler.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Tyler.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you. All right, move into general business. 7.1, providing meals for election judges continued. Clerk Yurek.
Good evening, council. Just a continuation from our last meeting on supplying food for the election judges. Couple of updates. I did find that we have provided meals in the past. It just wasn't a specific line item. So when I contacted Sue about that, it's under something else. And we did, the last election, we had 31 meals that were provided between lunch and the dinner. I did a little bit of investigation, not a lot. I did find a handful of companies that would give different options for different dietary restrictions that people have. And I did ask for catering to be brought in, so they come in, they set it up. And then, so it is a little bit more expensive than what has been done in the past, but because of the catering and setting up. So that, because for the 2 locations, so that frees me up in case an election issue comes up. I'm available here, not out in the someplace else picking up food. So looking for what's your discussion want to continue the discussion on whether we want to provide it and what we want to do.
Well, the enforcer told us what we should do.
What was the kind of total cost we're looking at?
We found it's about $20 to $25 a meal to have it catered and set up with taxes and the catering fee and the delivery fee.
So $600-700.
I was looking at about $500 per meal for both
So how many
locations.
meals do you have? You have 2.5, you have a breakfast type thing too, or coffee?
Breakfast is just a quick little couple donuts,
So much do you
something,
need for that?
yeah. No, I would work within whatever our budget we have. I'm not looking at, if you give me a budget, I'm not looking to go and take it all and use it all. I just want the best value, and so that, like I said, somebody can come in, cater it, set it up, and there's no worries. Simple water,
In the evening?
yes, this would include.
Besides, well,
Oh.
you gotta like a lunch and a dinner, and then you need something afterwards as well. And so you're saying, I'm just trying to figure out, you're saying 500, so is it, $1,000, or are we looking for
1,000,
1,200?
Yeah, $1,000
Something.
probably for each day for election would be a good budget,
Okay,
would be doable.
and how many per year? We've got,
Well, this year,
This year, there's 2.
Right.
And then the presidential elections, every 4 years, there's 3 elections. And then the governor elections are just 2.
midterms, yeah.
so I think before.
Well, that would be for each, right? So there's 2
Oh,
elections,
you've got.
right? So you
coffee,
need,
donuts,
you need-
whatever snack besides.
right, so you need, 2,000 for this year. Or
1,200 times 2.
2,400, sure.
Make a motion to provide budget of up to $2,400. For elections for the gubernatorial years. and $3,600 for, well, I mean, that's gonna be in the future, so. That can be
Yeah,
decided.
that would be a future budget item.
Yeah. So
Let's
this
just
year.
work on this year. Okay, so I've got a motion by Sutterbach for providing meals for election judges with a budget of $2,400 for 2026.
Can I just make a statement? Seems like a lot. I just don't want to have a blank check. I mean, you can go to Subway and just, I understand,
I set up to.
I understand, but
But
I
it's gonna
think
be
we can
catered.
also provide a food, but make it relatively cheap. So I would encourage us. I would be fine with it, but if we can do our best to keep it
I will.
well below
I
that, that'd
will
be
do
good.
the best.
Okay. Anybody want to second Jay's motion?
I will.
Perfect. Motion by Sutterbach, second by Schomer. Any more discussion before we take a vote? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you, council.
Moving on to 7.2, consider communications intern position, Administrator Jelinski.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So last council meeting, we talked about the newsletter and it was suggested we look at an intern position to possibly help with that. And so a communications intern position was created. A couple things that we need to discuss would be pay for that position, hours per week, and duties. So I took some liberties on the duties and hours per week at 3 to 5. Flexible schedule. It can be in the office, out of the office. A lot of this is online work. And then duties would be newsletter, some website management, social media management, and then duties as assigned, I guess you could say. And this would be for anyone enrolled in a college program or recently graduated in any type of communications or journalism type program. And then experience with website content management and your basic graphic design programs. And then, like I said, in the office or remote. So yeah, I would take any questions based on what's here or suggestions.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. Council, questions, comments?
I thought when we talked about this, to me, an intern is an unpaid position. Are we proposing to pay someone to do this? Okay,
I think that's part of the discussion that the Administrator Jelinski is asking.
what were we gonna, I didn't see a salary on here.
He didn't make a recommendation for that. Yeah.
When I was, I like the idea of having an intern and I thought it was to enhance your resume, and there's lots of unpaid intern positions that if it's only gonna be 5 hours a week. I'm fine with the job description. I just don't think we should pay someone for it. They're getting experience.
Yeah, I think you can keep it well under 20. I think you could be between like 15 and 19 for that. So 5 and
That's $4,000 a year plus payroll tax, so $5,000 a year. For something we're doing up until we did it for 6 months last year. With existing staff. So I know it's immaterial, just like the lunches and all that stuff, but well,
I think it ought to be at least minimum wage. I think see paying a lot for it, but because there is a bonus to that, but also you're asking for somebody to do work for us, everything else, and where I came from, we had a lot of interns, we got paid.
right, and I came from a lot of places where they didn't get paid.
Most of the interns I've ever hired all got paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an old timer then.
I think
It
that
was
some of
us-
that's,
It was
some of
usually
that's
the
changed a
kids of
bit.
parent, it was
Yeah.
usually the kids of employees that came in and did some stuff during the summer.
That would make sense. I think today it gets harder and harder to get unpaid interns.
Yeah.
In fact, I think some of the interns that I've hired over the years were paid very well.
Yeah.
'Cause we also did tuition reimbursement and stuff like that, just to, a lot of that was to retain them afterwards, but,
Mhm.
I would personally think it's fair to pay an intern if we're gonna ask them to do some of this work. And it would be, well, it's not, yeah, you may think 4,000 is insignificant, but it's not. It all adds up, every little piece that you add up. But if we're gonna really focus on communication to our residents and stand up, better, more frequent, I think something like this would certainly benefit that communication stream.
Alternatively, each council member every month could, no, we have 5 council members, so once I would every 5th month would write my own article and we posted an article, and one that we all agree with, and we all do it. And there's no cost. There's no cost.
Yeah, Bill, I think that's fair. I mean, we still can do that. I think we could do
But then what
that,
are
but I
they
think,
gonna do?
but I think then it's the in-between stuff. It's the, working with our social, working with some of our email communication tools, updating the website, trying to keep some of that stuff more up to date and more in, usable communication.
There's a pretty decent listing of the responsibilities and the duties. And it's more than just writing a letter a couple times a year. I mean,
So you
there's a
could-
lot of stuff here, and I think there's a lot of stuff that we can use. And I think that it allows us to actually have a much better transparency at getting things out, making sure that people get them. So, I don't see this as, I see this as a solid benefit. That,
Right, I don't dispute the benefit. Are you gonna be able to find someone to do all this stuff? That has the skill set to do website management? I thought we were talking about writing and posting articles. That's what I thought the intern was gonna do, and that's why I thought it was gonna be free.
I always thought that was gonna be pretty much these things, this is what we put into the site. So, I'm actually seeing what I was expecting to see. Like I said, I think for this, it looks like it's, it looks like we're asking a little bit more, so that's why I'm kind of advocating paying for it. The other reason I would advocate paying for it, when we're not paying for it, the excitement on it might last a month and then we're looking for somebody again, and that way at least, we can get through a scholastic period with an intern, a little bit more solid and depend on it. So I think for all of those reasons that we should consider this as it is. I don't like the commensurate with experience as far as setting the pay level. I think we should just figure it doesn't need to be high, but it needs to be something. So that's where I suggested just a minimum wage to put out for it. And the rest of it would come from experience resume, putting it on there.
Okay, any other thoughts or comments on that one?
I think we're gonna get what we pay for, so. To have somebody do it for free. We tried that with the high school 15 years ago. When a student come in and help out. They weren't very punctual, they lasted about 2 weeks, that was the end of it, so. Anyhow.
Any other thoughts? Looked like
Assuming
that,
we
but-
go through, I think we just, target schools, right? And that doesn't need to be anyone that even comes in. Maybe it's you come in once to understand the environment, and
Mhm.
then from there, it's just being handed. The other thing we really need to think about is who's feeding this person
Information.
the information, right?
Yeah, and what about hardware too? Will we just ask them to use their own hardware?
I mean, most of these things are tools that are free. I mean, we're not
Yeah.
looking for anything.
No, I'm just,
But do we have a laptop for them to use or a computer?
that's what I was just asking about is hardware, that's all web accessible. Well, Well, it's not just have to manage the security around the logins and stuff, but we'd have to do that if they had our hardware anyways, so.
We would just provide them an email address.
Mhm.
And everything that they're going to be writing is going to be public information, so.
Right. I'm just more worried about. We can get the right license for the Microsoft and everything so that they don't have access to SharePoint and, or certain file. We can have a file that they have transfer and photo assets and stuff like that. And we can work around those pieces of it. Okay. Well, I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve this position with, I'd say, a hiring range of $14 to $16 an hour.
I'd second that.
All right, motion by Costick, second by Zonto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1. Moving on to 7.3, Resolution 2026-10 Cardinal Pass Second Edition Preliminary Plat. Planner Strickler.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For your consideration this evening, we do have a preliminary plat, Cardinal Pass Second Edition. This is located on the west side of County Road 27 and just north of the Century Hills development. In fact, much of the residential access will be through the Century Hills development. The plat is proposing 12 new lots / single-family home sites. And we did find in our review that it does meet the minimum acreage size as well as area outside of hydric easement. And then the Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on this at their February 19th meeting. There were some neighbors in attendance from the Century Hills development that had some concerns about increased traffic throughout their neighborhood. And the applicant was also in attendance with one of his engineers to talk about their proposal and some of the road connections with the new letter that was received the day of the Planning Commission meeting from Scott County. I think your packet has both of the letters that we received from the county. And really the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this application with several conditions, one of those being that the council kind of have the final discussion and decision about the cul-de-sac. And so with that, I'm going to throw up onto the screen just a quick presentation that I think Steve sent out to you. And I gotta get my screen share up 1 second. That just kind of runs through the traffic study that was provided by the applicant and some of city staff's suggested layouts, which were all included in your packet. This is just kind of throwing it all together in one presentation so you don't have to scroll through all of the pages that we submitted. It's a full screen. All right. There's a slight delay. Okay. So this is the proposed layout, just for those in the audience as well as the council. So 12 homes with a proposed cul-de-sac leading out east onto Texas Avenue or County Road 27. Historically, the city of Credit River does have an ordinance that prohibits subdivisions unless there are specific circumstances that would allow for that topography or does not meet access spacing requirements in terms of connection to an arterial roadway, which Texas Avenue is considered. But the city and county have historically planned for this intersection. With the expectation of the Liberty Creek, what would have been Liberty Creek, the parcel to the east of Cardinal Pass, adding home sites as well as eventually Cardinal Pass developing. And Stonebrook Engineering on behalf of the applicant did prepare and submit a traffic study on this intersection to determine if a through street would be a safe intersection to route traffic from Cardinal Pass as well as Century Hills up through onto County Road 27. They did find that there is insufficient sight distance, particularly there's a dip in the road as the curve kind of starts to, as cars start to head towards the intersection. They also found that with the 2.5 acre requirement that the city has, as well as some soil conditions in the Liberty Creek parcel, that it may not develop to as high of density that would require another intersection here. And then they also proposed a north-south, as you can see the green to the end of the proposed subdivision, going north up to kind of connect 210th Street. But there is a really large wetland complex that goes through here, as well as some other issues with the 210th Street connection that we cited in our staff report. But really, here where the Credit River kind of goes along Texas Avenue here, there's a really significant, oh, there's my, there's a really significant slope and bluffs around there that would be really difficult to build a road and a connection to. There's also, just with the general layout on the traffic study, some, we would not allow a cul-de-sac here in the Liberty Creek. We would require a connection out onto County Road 27. We would not allow a cul-de-sac here on Harvest Hills. So just a couple of observations. And then this is a layout presented by Probe Engineering that they provided all the civil plans and the for your consideration this evening. But this is really similar. It just doesn't show, this one doesn't take into consideration the subdivisions on the eastern side of County Road 27. It also does have the cul-de-sac here and some, probably, like I said, connections that staff doesn't think would be would work with the topography on the 210th extension. So the city engineer did provide an alternative layout concept this was discussed and shown at the Planning Commission. This is example 1, which would be if the road were extended onto 210th. And then a second one that's a very similar layout with just a cul-de-sac, if that's what the council decided this evening. But while I have these up, if Shane, if you want to add anything on these proposed layouts, feel free. I don't know if I forgot. I'm sure I left something out.
I don't think and I'll be here for questions if there's any questions.
Perfect.
And I do have, these are kind of just them two next to each other to help the council as you're kind of looking, or if you want me to shift to anything, happy to do so. But
With that, everything else on the plan is,
yes, yeah, there's still some outstanding comments from Scott County Environmental, but we wrote that in as a condition of approval, that they provide the updated plans that they're requesting in the letter that I think the county submitted on February 13th. And then really, yeah, the outstanding items are really just this cul-de-sac discussion. There's a condition to that, the initial plat that parceled off Outlot A, which is what's making 12, that driveway has to be removed off of Texas Avenue into, so that's a condition as well, but the applicant's aware of that, so I don't think there's anything else outstanding on the plat,
okay.
but thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Council members, questions or comments?
I'm generally good with all this. I attended the planning commission with you, Chris, and the one concern that Gary had was extending that road north. And versus just not extending it, because it's gonna eventually go through somebody's yard lot currently. And why would that person that owns that lot ever want a road to go through his lot? He doesn't have to. So we're assuming that someday that person's going to allow it. And we don't know that for sure, do we? We don't know that, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Marker, we don't know it. We don't know it whenever we provide a stub street. We try to plan for the future. And again, if that street doesn't go north, then what would likely happen in the future is you would have a cul-de-sac on that property, the northern property. There is a larger property to the north of that 10-acre piece.
Right, I see that. So why couldn't, one of the suggestions was, why couldn't we just have a right of way for that event? If we eventually do extend that road north, why can't we just make it a right of way versus building a road that's not gonna be used for, who knows? Could be forever. Cause he made a good point. is We're gonna build a road that's not gonna be used for who
Dedicated.
knows how long, and we have to maintain it and plow it and, all that. That's,
You have any thoughts on that, Shane?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I mean, I would say that the council does have the authority to make that call. Generally, our ordinances require that infrastructure improvements are built as close as possible to the plat line. And, we have a lot of substreets in the city where, and that kind of, I mean, it more or less puts the stake in the ground. It lets people that are moving in know that there's a road right of way here, this road is gonna go through in the future. That's not as evident if it's just a right of way with no improvements on it. But the council would have the discussion to discuss that and.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that, if you look around and the problems that those right of ways have caused us, we have a road that's named the same thing on two ends of a 300-foot gap because the county let a developer get away with not paving to the end of the property. Two developers get away with not paving to the end of the property, and now every time a emergency service call goes to one end of Towering Oaks, it's 10 minutes to go all the way around to the other end because they came to the wrong Towering Oaks. And you see that when you start talking about dedicating half of the right of way, we've got that up on Killarney, where half of the right of way is poked along the power lines up there. Not that there's anything happening there right now anyways, but there's other than the person that lives there has their trees planted in it and their driveway across it.
We have a dedicated right of way and development right behind us
Three of them.
that they wanted to do away with
Mhm.
and do it.
Yeah,
We
So
we did refund the escrow to the developer on that right away, so.
because I think it expired after X amount of
15
time.
years.
Question.
Yes, Jay.
So if in the future, all we have is a right of way here, who pays to do that connection from the street up to that property line on something accepted only right of way? You make the developer that's doing the connection do it? Is that possible? And are we,
Could you even legally?
I don't know, that's the question I'm asking.
Mr. Mayor and Council, there is some authority for having a developer pay for the infrastructure that serves the plat, whether it's within the plat or immediately adjacent to the plat. And there is some conventional wisdom that the further away you get from the plat, the more suspect it is. But finishing off that final connection, there may be some issue about an apportionment. What percentage of this is fair for that developer to pay instead of paying for all of it? And to Councilmember Soderbach's point, if the Cardinal Pass development doesn't put it in now, then there will be a question about how it gets paid for and who puts it in the future. There may be an issue with the future developer. But I also hasten to add, I agree with Shane, you have the discretion to simply take a right away if you prefer.
I think other than ones you named off, we have right away and probably another half a dozen developments. Let's say this road sign is up, this road may be extended in the future, and we have the right of way to the property, whether it ends in a cul-de-sac or not. So
There's some that we have right away that there isn't a sign set.
right.
Some of them have been there for 60 years.
But if this property owner to the north never wants to sell his land, never wants to split his land, that road will go to nowhere. It's like the bridge to nowhere.
Yeah.
So,
We don't,
so,
it ends in the cul-de-sac, we don't.
no, this is this is
build
gonna be
the
a,
property.
this is gonna be a cul-de-sac up to the,
No, we'll pay to plow up into the cul-de-sac. When
Yeah.
it probably has no use. We'll pay to seal coat it, we'll pay to do all the maintenance over the years. So the question, I guess, to go back with, you know, the other point that I was looking at, it might be cheaper for the taxpayer for us to absorb the cost of filling in a several 100-foot road in the future sometime, if we wind up having to make a road out of it from a deeded or right of way. So, you know, I'm just kind of looking at, you know, what's the cost today versus what's the cost tomorrow. You know, we should be thinking about access to the other properties and for through streets. But, you know, the question is, how much is it gonna cost us today for something that may never happen versus paying for it? You know, it's just a thought.
did someone educate me? So let's say the property to the north of the property that the street would run through, that would have to be developed. And then how would they get that property owner that already owns a home to have a street go through it? Would they have to get permission, or would the city have to, or the developer have to pay that owner money?
Realistically, Councilmember Markert, that property doesn't develop unless the owner sells to a developer.
Okay, so that all goes, that property, that entire plat goes, either gets, well, it'd have to go away, right? Because he's got to get a driveway. Well, no, it could be subdivided.
All I can tell you in the abstract, it's possible for a developer to keep an existing house and plat lots around it, and it's also possible
Okay.
to raise it.
All right,
Depends on the circumstance.
so he'd have to buy, he or she would have to, the company would have to buy that lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Any other thoughts on this, the road to the north? What about the cul-de-sac? What about access to 27?
With that, but it's a temporary one and it may never be extended. like
Oh,
the
a
cul-
cul-de-sac?
Right? The one that, which one are you talking about?
Well, the cul-de-sac access, I guess I should say access to 27. Let's
Yeah.
talk about access, call it access to 27.
Was the developer okay with that temporary cul-de-sac?
They did say that in the planning commission meeting, yes, and that was what the county kind of had provided in their second letter after they received the site distance exhibit, that they would be okay with a temporary cul-de-sac, yeah, and the developer said they would be.
Mary, would you mind, can we have the developer make a statement or not? He's got his hand raised.
Well, we had the public hearing at the planning commission, so at this point, unless there's direct questions, I'd say not
Okay.
really, unless somebody has a question for the developer. So,
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
if I may, if we're talking about a condition like this temporary cul-de-sac and right of way, that is a deviation from the preliminary plat that was presented. I do think it'd be in the city's interest for the developer to, on the record, say they agree with that condition.
okay.
If they.
Now you may step up and talk about whether you agree with the deviation of the cul-de-sac. Problem is, you turn Gary on, he doesn't stop.
Try to stay on that. To maybe help the council tonight, we do have the property owners to the north present in the audience who claim they never got the notification. They called us concerned on a road that was gonna directly impact their $1 million property without ever having a public notice, so they never had a chance to speak. They're here tonight, if you wanna hear from them, they're in the audience, I think that's appropriate. If they're making a claim that they didn't get notified, so that's number one. The County 27 connection, we have always made the petition for our plat for approval without making a connection to 27. We've always felt that that was the case. Scott Munchow lived there since 1960. He's lived there and always said we had concerns with the road. After our traffic study came in, traffic study verified deficiencies in the road. Shane last meeting at the planning commission also acknowledged that there were deficiencies. He went and drove it himself. Scott County sent over a letter, said deficiency. So we're all on board with 27 not making a connection and leaving this actually as a permanent cul-de-sac until such time in the future. I think Scott County made a representation not for 30 years. Is what they made comments on. That 27 was not upgraded scheduled for 30 years. Was what the number I got. Anyway, whatever that is, right? So we're fine with getting that issue put to bed. If they want the right of way for future, we are totally fine assigning a right of way connection down to 27. So years in the future, if that issue comes back up, they have a connection. So that one's good. The other point of contention on our plat is the road going to the north. So I tried to make the argument at the last meeting that for the same reason we don't build roundabouts at every intersection in the county 30 years ago, we don't build infrastructure that costs money to the taxpayer before it's warranted to put in. We've got roads that we've developed in the backside of Crestview, Clemwood, I mean, just pick neighborhoods all over, because I understand the connectivity. Chris, your comment about Towering Oaks, if you just don't name the same road from both sides, the same name and leave the gap, you don't have as big of a problem.
Or if the county makes them connect it.
But that isn't always a reality, right? So meeting with Larry and Mary, who own the 10 acres, that now we're showing a road to the edge of their property that has a tax value of over $1 million. I think it's prudent for the council to represent all of the taxpayers. You have to have a financial overlook from kind of developers' eyes. We don't get to just take our crayon and start drawing lines on people's properties on how we think these roads go. So today I got in that area, I walked every piece of that property, starting on the Tice's property from the 40 acres over on Flag. We went and walked Bonnie's piece all the way back. We went and walked Larry and Mary's piece. And you get a feel there are some real compromising issues in developing all of that land. It's down by the radio antennas. We got some low soils. The Tice farm, you got to know, you've been on that farm. The northwest corner of Bonnie's land has over 18% slope grades. So some of the roads we're showing there will just physically never match what we're doing on a single line one-dimensional paper. It's just not going to pan out. You can't take the road plan and start drawing to corners of people's 40s, because when that particular person brings their plat in, you just chopped out all the way the lots break up for septics and setbacks and road setbacks. So what's missing is the reality of how a developer would bring these plats to you in the future and how they're going to continue to go forward. And so looking at that, you want to pull up, I don't know if there was a way to get the map of, I am absolutely convinced, although it's not easy coming off 210th, I agree with Shane's comments. 210th is not an easy build, but it is a doable build. It can be built. And taking what comes out of Lake's property now off of Flag and making a connection through there is a viable option, because you've got a big enough parcel to break the cost east to west. Blow that up at all.
Working on
You want the one
it. There's a
left?
delay on the screen.
So we know we've got a problem, like this road, for example, is never coming through to Raven Point. This is all a bottomless pit, where you have to get your tractor stuck there. And we've had conversations for 20 years on getting rid of this, because the side slopes from the road are more than a 1-to-1. We all know this is a bad intersection, there needs to be a connection. But if you look at this, this is never gonna develop this way, because you're not gonna take Bonnie's nice farm, that today that farm is gonna sell at a dollar number, that's not gonna get bulldozed, that farm will most likely stay there. So you start looking at the logical connections. This is gonna run parallel straight through, because you gotta get these lots developed. You guys won't do cul-de-sacs all over, so this is gonna run straight through. Larry and Mary's piece for 10 acres, right now we're showing this road into their house. I don't know if you guys have been in their driveway and looked at that property. That is a modern, new, beautiful home, tax value over $1 million. There is no chance that that house is getting bulldozed for a developer to put in one lot. If you look in their backyard, it drops down at, probably, I don't know, Shane, you probably know, it's a 15% grade to a wetland. You cannot physically build another lot to the back half of their 10. Their front northeast corner drops down into wetland. You might sneak a house and a septic right up here in the southeast corner where their driveway is. Possible. But you're not gonna ever get a developer to pay for this connection at $400 a foot today's price. What's that gonna do? This is just never gonna happen. You're never taking out that $1 million house. So my point is, this whole connection is totally fictitious. So why is the Credit River taxpayer, we've got problems on roads all over the place we can't fix. Why do we want a 625-foot road to nowhere without one single tax-paying driveway. That's chances of taking out Larry and Mary right here. Look at them. There's no way they're gonna bulldoze down that $1 million house. So this plan is absolutely a no-go, but yet we're just seconds away from making a motion on it. This road is gonna run, it's gonna basically, if you take what Kane's piece was and the piece we did in Vyman's Pit and just roll this over, this is gonna be virtually an identical look of what, how this is gonna develop out. I walked the Chapman, Lapton piece today. This house sits centered on this 10 acres. The wetland creeps up from the back. There is no room for a new building pad or a septic on this 10 acres either. I can't believe this another modern house, new pole barn, 10 acres, value's gotta be 800 grand. This guy is not gonna go and carve a house in his front yard up along Flag. That is not gonna happen. So these two 10-acre parcels between Larry and Mary and this piece are gonna be a roadblock north to south. We're not getting through the wetland, and you just got no economic engine to drive development through these two towns. Not in the very, very foreseeable future until, are we ever gonna get water and sewer out here? Are you ever gonna build apartment buildings out here? No, right? So this is just not a plan. This plan, if you want connection from the backside of Flag, this is gonna have to run all the way through, and we're gonna have to jump up and hit a 2/10 connection, and you've got enough economic engine to put lots in here, like you see down here, that you could actually pay for the infrastructure to make this connection. There will be no economic driver north to south to come through here and ever produce that connection. There's no lots to be had, is what I'm telling you. We're playing way too much emphasis on land that cannot be developed in the future very well. And then, of course, this whole thing is completely not a reality, because if you drive through here, like Leroy, you know, right off the sharp corner, if you go up in this direction where this road shows, that's the deepest part of the swale of that farm. The water just gushes through there. So this is just, again, not gonna be a reality. This road's gonna straighten out. This one's gonna pull as far away from the farm as you can. You're gonna see walkout lots on this ridge without this connection going to Raven Point, because there's a bottomless pit right there in the worst intersection. So this will be a row of walkout lots going back up to the northwest. This road's gonna come through. Whoever does this is gonna come to you and propose at least one small cul-de-sac, because we cannot get into these walkout lots on the back of this wetland without producing some type of a half bubble or some type of a cul-de-sac. Anyway, from a developer standpoint, that's the reality of how these are gonna come forward to you in the future. And I'm just trying to save 625 feet of road that you guys are gonna put on your road budget, and you're gonna plow it, and you're gonna seal coat it, and you're gonna chip crack it, and someone's gonna mow the boulevards, and all that's gonna happen. And Larry and Mary are never gonna bulldoze their $1 million house for that road to go to the north. You couldn't produce enough economic benefit. So again, I wanna express that the viability of the plan is just not a reality, and they're right here. You love to hear you talk to them. We had a neighborhood meeting with everybody, so everybody understood what's going on today, and talked about all the options, and I think everybody here is well informed. I know you had your public hearing, but we didn't really get a chance to represent the plat.
Okay.
One other thing, and then I'll let you go. So if you are see it through to give us as a petitioner, a recommendation for the plat to move forward, if you could please at least put your original recommendations for the Munchau's to break off their mother's house and sell the outlot, was on the condition that the county said the driveway needs to be moved. And in your approval for that, it says that the city would change their position if the county then also would change their position. If you look back in the minutes, that's written in the approval that night. So unbeknownst to the Munchau family, when we were doing that, the Cornex right next door, virtually at the same time we're developing, nobody at the county or the city let us know that. The two actions were virtually identical. Cornick had a property that he was splitting off a house and an outlot, and had the ability to go out the back to Kane's cul-de-sac. The Munchau family split off a house and a back outlot. Cornigs were not asked to do anything to remove their driveway whatsoever, but yet the Munchau family was requested to have an extreme hardship to move that driveway a long way and to devalue that property by now driving and accessing it to the backyard to the front. The Munchau family is very, very, we're gonna take this up with the county for sure, because I think they've been very, very wrong on one neighbor, and this isn't like years ago. These two plats happened very, very close, and we were not led to know that. So one property owner was treated one way, and one property owner was treated another way for an exact same action. So my point is, if you make a recommendation, if the city would be willing to say, if the Munch House are, if they're able to be successful at the county, for the county to remove that condition, then you guys would then go along, so we don't need to come back for another meeting for something that the county required. That would be a huge help. We feel very confident that the county is gonna be able to turn their position on this because of the arbitrary nature of one person being demanded such a hardship and another next guy right next door not. If it was you in that house, and your neighbor was treated that way, you would feel the same way. So if you could include that in your motion, it would be very helpful and beneficial to the Munchow family, so we can keep moving forward since June of 20. Anything else before I sit down?
No, thank you, Gary.
Larry and Mary are here if you want to hear from them. They came specifically to represent their property because they were not notified, so I don't know if there's a minute for them to speak or not.
Can we verify if
Yeah.
they were notified, if they were on the roll?
Right.
Is there a way, do we have the roll of mailings that were mailed?
Yeah, but I think they're on your computer, yeah.
Okay. I'll give you 30 seconds, maybe more.
Wants to stand up there?
Yes, please. No, we need, because we live stream this, so the microphones have got to be well heard. Otherwise, the people watching, we've got a pretty big following. I'm sure there's probably 10 or 15 people watching. We get pretty good ratings for this time slot, all over 54, I'm sure, outside the demo.
Gary represented everything that we could say probably very well. We were a little surprised when we did not get a notice. And I even said to Larry, it seems odd because usually when there is a development or something that's being platted in the area, we get a notice. And let us know when the hearing is going to be so that we can be present, make statement if we feel we need to. We did not get that this time. This came as a complete surprise. And Gary was good enough to give us a plat of it. We can see where this road to nowhere is. It is right in our front yard. So it'd be between our house through the front yard, and then we have a barn over on the side. That does not make any sense. And as far as, will the house be torn down someday? No, I don't see that happening. Our plan is to stay there at this point. We like our lifestyle. We have been there 35 years. If we sell, or the day will come, we're too old to take care of everything. Our plan is to sell it as a 10. But if there is a road that is butting right up that goes nowhere, we're trying to sell it as a 10-acre hobby farm or whatever somebody wants to do with it. They're going to look at that piece of road and question, well, so what's going on here? Is this going to be developed through? Probably wouldn't want to buy it. So it devalues, I believe, it devalues the value of our property. And I do wonder, who is going to maintain that stretch road? If you decided to do it, which I would be against, and I would have to look beyond this meeting, who's going to pay for that? Our taxes are enough, as far as I'm concerned. And to have something built that does nothing, it has no purpose, it is in the hopes that we turn out our house so you can run a road through, no. I think that's presumptive. I don't know who thought that would be something that we'd be interested in doing, but I'm here to tell you that will not happen. So we're just asking for a little consideration for our lifestyle, for the fact that we want our property to be as marketable as it possibly can be, as it is. And a road butting up to our property, which is in front of our house in the front yard, is not a good sale point to have. And that's all I have to say.
All right, do me a favor, name, address, please.
Merritt Watts, WAS like Sam, Z like zebra, 21250, Texas Avenue.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. Want to say anything?
And we'll check that, make sure that the notice went
Yeah.
out. Okay. I know the notices went out. There was a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. Yep, you just gotta verify it's on the roll, so, perfect. All right, do you have anything after all that, additional thinking? We talked about a lot of things there over the last. Anything change or anything that you want to highlight?
No, I mean, Mr. Mayor, I think the only comment is from staff is, you know, the city establishes, the city council, your planning commission, the city council establishes the ordinances, right?
Mhm.
Our ordinance prohibits cul-de-sacs, and so when we prepared an alternate concept plan, that was simply
Mhm.
our main objective is to show a possible road connection with no cul-de-sacs. If you look on the left figure, you know, there are cul-de-sacs in that. And that's not the end of the world, but it, you know, we do have requirements for street connectivity and
Mhm.
that. Not all cities require that. There's some cities allow cul-de-sacs. I mean, there's a lot of people like to be on cul-de-sacs
Why don't
because
we like-
there's less traffic, but it does make plowing harder. It makes connectivity harder. It makes, you know, harder.
Funnels traffic in
Right.
certain places.
So-
Mhm. Perfect. But say something, Jay.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this should go back to the planning commission one more time. And especially if we didn't get a notification on it, we should double check that, but, you know, just to come back with a little cleaner, thing.
I think they looked to us to make the policy call on
Get that.
the couple of items, right? It wasn't, you know, which is fair from their standpoint, is not to, you know, it's really up to the council to make the decision of whether or not this meets the ordinance and which way
Mhm.
to do this, right? So the planning commission looked at it and said, yep, we okay with the plat, but council, you make the big bucks, you figure out whether it goes through or not.
Well,
That's the, you know,
the traffic study and the connectivity to County Road 27. Looking at that, I tend to agree with that. You know, that it probably isn't a good idea to do that. But then beyond that, I'm not sure after listening to this that the proposed connectivity between these things is a really good idea. On the other hand, you know, when we're looking at future streets and future planning and everything else, 30 years is not really a long period of time. You know, you're actually making decisions for 50, 60, 70 years in the future. When you're looking at connectivity and things like that. You know, the fact that somebody isn't going to sell a piece of property or isn't gonna do something with it in a lifetime doesn't necessarily circumvent that there might be something in the future in need. And if we don't allow for that planning, then there's kind of a problem. I don't like the idea of adding a road to nowhere to a cul-de-sac that basically serves nothing. That's on, I should say not tax rolls, but our
maintenance budget.
CIP plan and everything else in our maintenance, and then the fact that, you know, we're gonna wind up having to maintain the asphalt on it and
Whatever.
all those things. I don't like the idea of that. I don't like the idea of just running a cul-de-sac up to the border of somebody's property that has no intent of ever doing anything, or at least for the next 30 years or a lifetime. But that doesn't mean that somebody doesn't come in and offer a lot of money. And $1 million home gets moved or torn down because it actually makes sense to a developer in the future to do something different with it. You know, I don't think that we are going to have sewer and water or anything else to make anything less than 2.5 acre lots, probably ever in this part of the city. But you know, we should make sure that we follow our connectivity thoughts, and maybe they need to come up with a better idea. That's why I was just saying maybe a tabling and let it go back to planning commission, because maybe a different solution needs to be mapped out. Right now, I'm looking at we have essentially 2 choices. I don't like either decision, so.
Well, I'd like to make a motion, and if it goes, it goes, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. I'd like to make a motion that we approve this resolution 2026-10 with a minor, guess, with an adjustment that we don't require the north street, I call it the street to nowhere, the street to the lady and gentleman's home. I don't know if I need to be any more specific than that, but do I? Is it what section of the resolution is that?
Councilmember Margaret, I believe what you are suggesting is approve the resolution deleting condition paragraph 1 sub 2I, Romanet 2.
Paragraph
The
1.
developer shall provide an updated preliminary plat that supports a northern street connection prior to submittal of the final plat. That's the condition you would like omitted.
Yeah, what page of the meeting packet is that on?
110.
110, thank you. Why can't I find it?
Because it's 110, it's way down there.
Oh, it's up for, oh yeah, I had the wrong thing highlighted. Yes. That's what I propose. I don't know anything about Gary, what he was talking about with the Munchausen house. I don't know if that has to do with this application, but I can't comment on that because I don't know what that's about.
Okay,
So,
so you have your motion,
yep,
right? Committing the northern track piece.
yeah.
Is anybody ready to second it? I do have some other questions I would like to ask Shane first, but
I have a few questions too.
okay. So we'll hold your motion for right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Let's start with Abe.
So I have two questions. The connection to 27, so right away. So if that's a temporary, or is that a permanent cul-de-sac?
So it's shown today as a permanent, right?
That's correct.
Okay, I thought I heard something about if was ever modified or if 27 was ever adjusted, that there was a right of way that would be in.
We'd have to ask that be amended, right?
That's in the resolution right now, Councilmember Zanto. And I believe, and that's why I asked for the applicant to agree on the record. He called it a permanent cul-de-sac, but was willing to also grant the right of way in the event in the future sometime the county did make that connection feasible.
Okay,
So that's the highlighted number 4 in the resolution.
okay, and where is that right of way?
It's not shown
It's
on
not
the
shown
map.
on plat currently, so staff would require that they, provide all those
Okay.
updated plats to meet any conditions in this resolution, the county's outstanding comments before they could submit for final plat.
Okay, because right now the way it's drawn, it doesn't look like it would work.
Right, because we received the county's.
Okay,
Very.
all right. Then my second question is back to what Jay originally had asked, if we don't put a north street up there, which I agree doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If in the case though, that we have the right of way there, who's paying for it if and when we ever put that in?
Right. It would have to be the next developer.
Or it gets negotiated at that time.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's, a developer's gotta eat 650 feet.
If they want to connect.
Today's price, it's about 170,000.
Okay, that's my only questions.
Leroy, do you have a question?
Same ones they've had.
So let's talk about the cul-de-sac again, and access to 27. Understanding I get that the site distance is 80 feet short of, so it's, what is it, 550 and 630 is like the minimum site distance? I think is what the.
Right, and then there was the recommended 800 foot
Yeah,
by Scott County.
I'm thinking more because again, so across the street, we've got deeded right away for an access at 27 at that spot. If this one doesn't connect to 27 and then development happens the other side, and it likely would need to have access to 27 at that point because development along 210th has already happened, right? You're not going to swing it up to 210th at this point anymore. So now you have an access out from the east side, but nothing on the west side. Is that not ideal to have it would be more ideal to have a 4-way intersection at that point where it would warrant the county of making improvements along that stretch rather than a
You wanna wind up with.
three-way,
You're gonna wind up with
intersection?
turn lanes on both sides, you're gonna wind up.
so it
with-
widens it, probably
Yeah.
makes it safer if there's turn lanes along there.
There's the dip and everything else, but yeah, I mean, when you look at it, it makes a lot of sense. It's an intersection there,
Mhm.
you know, and I understand that probably the developer wouldn't want that because then it's gonna open up the two places to the south of it, connecting into it to allow a path out. It's gonna probably get used. Yeah, I know that there was a traffic study and everything else with it, but it does make sense to have that. It's gonna create more traffic through their development, their new development, if that is a connection.
Yeah, so it probably more happens once the Tice property develops than current state.
Yeah.
But the other problem with doing a temporary easement that says at some point this will come, then when Scott County does come and do that, and they say, we're gonna connect now all these people are gonna say, well, we lived on this cul-de-sac here for 20
Yeah.
years and now all this traffic's gonna come through here. And then it becomes a problem for whatever council is sitting there at the time they have to make that decision. Leroy.
And when these other developments to the south of this development were put in, the assumption always was that that would be an intersection.
Okay.
So
Well, that's
to have the other traffic go through their developments, you're gonna have the same
Mm-hmm.
questions from people.
So Shane, if the recommendation from the council was to put the access in, would it also require a turn lane at this time then too?
So that would be up to Scott County. Scott County is, you know, the road authority for Highway 27. But yes, I believe it would.
And would that be upon the developer to do then, or was that the city thing?
That would be a developer obligation.
Okay. It's not ideal. The sightlines are not ideal.
Development to pick up that connection, but you know, the connection itself makes a lot of sense. It also would. You know, and I think actually still having some sort of connectivity, just I don't like the idea of putting the street in going north.
Mhm.
It just, for nothing, you know, for any reason, and I don't really think that we should put something in that approaches it, but having the ability to do that for somebody else to make the decision to do that sometime in the future. You know, that might be the smart thing, especially if we wind up saying that they really probably need to add that connection. The easement into, or the right of way into 27 still. Even if it doesn't get done now.
Yeah, if it doesn't get done now,
Takes a lot of-
it will never get done.
Takes a lot of signs and everything else, and
Yeah.
just notify somebody that it's possible, so.
It happened.
I actually wrote the study, so if you have specific questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Yep. Yeah, and the study is very detailed, and I get it. It's the,
Made a lot
I
of
don't have a
sense.
problem. I understand the sightlines aren't ideal today. That's 100% true. I agree with that 100%. The problem I have is that going forward, as that area develops out, that
The
neither
road- the highway would change.
neither intersection of Flag, which is where the traffic would end up, are ideal either, right? And they're both at odd angles and not great intersections as well, right? So and one of them isn't even paved. It's dirt gravel down south of there.
The connection to 8.
Yeah, the connection at 8 is gravel down that way. So I struggle with taking this intersection that's been planned for, you know, when that study happened 20 years ago, and not making accommodations there, even though I get it, that there's I do struggle with the sightline distance because that is I've driven through there, I've seen it, right? And it is a problematic. Yeah, Tim, go ahead.
Well, we did just do 210th and we did Gray Fox and improve the sideline there with construction, so it can be improved.
So the real issue that I kind of jumping out of my seat about is the intersection itself isn't really justified, nor will it be in the future. And what we don't want is conflict points on a road. So even when Scott County expands that road in the future, it's because of an increase in volume of traffic, and so there won't be any intersection control there. Because the proposed traffic volume at that location is very low. So what you're gonna end up is a really dangerous intersection pulling out onto an arterial roadway that, you know, that's what we're trying to avoid. And the volumes are low enough
that you can actually push that traffic up to 210th. And you mentioned that that was all developed, but there's, I think, it's either 10 or 20 acre parcels along there where you could conceivably sneak a roadway up to 210th Street in the future if anything occurred with that. So that's probably the bigger issue than even the site distance. Site distance is a deal killer right now until you improve the intersection overall with the county, so you don't want to do that. But even long term, you just don't have enough lots out there with the density that you have available to you to justify putting in another conflict point on a county road like that. That was really kind of the biggest gist of the traffic study. So it's bigger than just the site distance issues. It makes more sense to force that traffic up to a common point. That way, if there's issues that develop there, we get tools, whether it's a roundabout or a signal or something in the future to control that, make that intersection safe. Turning left out onto a busy, uncontrolled arterial like that is the most dangerous intersections that we have, so.
Yeah.
20 years ago, Scott County identified the dangerous intersections on County Road 8, County Road 27.
Right.
And this was a future interceptor.
Yeah.
To improve all this, so.
Right, and so the biggest issue with that too is probably the Liberty Creek change, because Liberty Creek was, I think, about 30 plus lots originally, and there's not septics available, so that plat was preliminarily approved with the understanding that the developer would get septics to pass out there, and we did extensive investigation out there and got the 10 lots that are shown in the concept layout is it, that's all that's down. So that's the density issue, or a large contributing factor to the density issue, and having that intersection make sense in the future on either side of the road. So that's why, even our conversation with the county supporting it, it's the same thing. It's not just a safety issue because of the site distances, it's a safety issue because it's I'm gonna call it an unnecessary intersection even in the future. If they provide the right of way there, so if they could potentially extend it, you're not wrong. The odds of it happening are slim to none, because it's what's gonna make it justified? Nothing. I mean, you've got enough capacity in the existing roads with the lot sizes you have out there where it's really never gonna be needed from an operations standpoint. And that's what Scott County's gonna look at, so.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder if Claire, if you could put the exhibit back on the screen that shows the connection, and I think it'd be helpful and maybe Tim, if you could stand at the podium, because one things that you do, and if you look at like the appendix of Tim's report, you're trying to predict traffic and you're trying to predict which direction traffic will go. And generally what you find is homes that are nearest the intersection, a lot like 70 to 80% of your traffic is going to want to go north and east. They're going to get towards 35, drive to the cities for work. That's going to be the most of their trips. But occasionally they might have a reason to drive south. So you do this directional split. Can you get the one that shows a connection?
Oh, yeah. Or actually, here, I have it up.
There we go.
I can zoom in if I throw it on PDF, but that's fine.
So what you end up with is right near this.
I'm zooming in, I'm working on it.
I'm trying to present to the council, but what you end up is right near this intersection, you have, maybe there's 6 to 8 homes, and 70-80% of the trips are out to 27 north. And then as you get further away, the distribution changes. So maybe, if you're over here, if you're 10 or 20%, you're gonna use this intersection. And as you go north, you kind of have the same thing. A lot of the houses in here may find it just as convenient to go Clay Trail as to go south before going north. And that's the other thing. And I think that's really what Tim's, one of the points he's trying to get across with, even if the intersection is built, there just won't be that much traffic. And it's just because of the way the road network, would lay out. It would receive a few cars per day, maybe 50 trips, maybe, but it wouldn't be a major reliever of, you're still gonna get a lot of traffic that's gonna want to go up to the Flame Trail intersection.
Then Shane, what do you think happens then on the east side of 27 there? Again, looking at this from the big picture, right? You still have 10 lots that were kind of scoped out in what used to be Liberty Creek. And then you've got the other property to the west of there towards 27, Skozacheks, that, probably a couple on there.
If you go back to the drawing you had up.
Yeah.
So we, And one of the concepts actually showed a roadway going up, I think, right here,
Mhm.
up to 210th. I just didn't wanna set somebody off because we're short road through their property.
Right, and we're not even talking about that development today really,
But
other
based
than,
on-
yeah.
To Gary's point, based on building location, and availability of land, I think it's possible to get a connection up there at some point in the future.
Well,
which actually-
Gary, do you still own one of those lots you just built on 210?
So that actually.
But
makes-
you're crossing a creek. The Credit
Uh,
River.
Yeah, we're crossing the creek here too, so at some point. we'll
Yeah.
cross. But the point was that if a road was expanded up here in the future, you could actually then further subdivide this into 2.5, so it would actually make financial sense to.
Benefit that property.
Exactly. As far as this is concerned, there's a lot of issues with this alignment, placement of it, developability of it,
Mhm.
things like that, like Gary was talking about. But yeah, I think that's what'll happen is this will become large acreage tracts and then there'll likely be a connection up there because this individual at some point, this is still big enough. Ends are really hard to break up.
Yeah.
This 20 would be doable at 2.5.
Yeah, the 10 you really get 2 5s and that's it.
So your green road you drew in there, couldn't make a little swiggle and connect to 27?
In theory, it could come over this way and go out to 27, but back to the whole, you really don't want those conflict points out there.
Mhm.
So if we can keep traffic on the existing road and concentrate it someplace else. Like in the future, this projected volume is so low, you would never really be able to fix it. The only thing you could do is block it off and not utilize the thing. Whereas this is gonna pick up a lot of traffic from Yellowstone and even if we, made a connection here, or even if we don't, you can do something with this intersection. It could be a green T, it could be a roundabout. There's a lot of things that could occur there that would actually make that intersection safe. There's nothing that's gonna be warranted down here to make that intersection safer aside from closing it in the future, so. I was trying to think of an example. There's actually one in Shakopee off of County Road 17. There's a development that went in kind of just on the top of the hill by the church there. And they actually ended up closing that off for that reason because they're pulling out on the 17. It's exactly the same thing. You just don't get a high enough volume to do anything with that type of road. That's the first thing. We do a lot of wrong justification reports, interchange studies and things like that. And that's the first thing you do is look at the traffic volumes. And if you can't do it, and you can have every house built out there. We actually did that as part of the projections that we did for the traffic model. You just can't get enough cars to go there to begin to make it make sense. And that's like, the thing that Scott County is hedging their bets saying, well, let's dedicate the right of way through here, we'll get behind this in case it ever happens, but it's an extremely low probability that you'd ever, short of turning those into city sewer and water line,
Yeah.
and splitting them again, it's not gonna be warranted, so. Because even as congestion and traffic increases on 27, that's actually the point, that's why you don't want it there, you want to force it up to a major intersection.
Yeah, it would be nice if the topography at 210th was better than what it is.
Yeah.
Cause that would make a lot of sense.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that would make a lot of sense. I really doubt that connection could ever happen on the west side, just
Yeah.
because the Credit River is DNR protected. Being that it's DNR protected, it falls under our shoreland rules, and that would be considered a bluff. I mean, so it's possible, but there would be a lot of permitting
To get that.
and it'll be an
Yeah.
expensive connection.
And even if it doesn't come through, like Shane was saying, you can utilize, flag and you end up with 2T intersections, which again, we can deal with those intersections. Traffic volume shouldn't be higher.
With Longview in the middle in between.
Right.
I'm gonna tell you, that's actually the worst one of all of them.
If you look at Scott County's proposed spacing, it actually does make sense at about a quarter mile to start breaking county or, breaking up cities and counties into smaller pieces.
Yeah.
But now when you've got a 2.5 acre lot density.
Okay. So I'm fine with that. I'm fine if we don't do anything there, because that makes a lot of sense. I just didn't want to let that one go without having that discussion, because it's it's intercomp plan, it's been in the studies and, all that. I think then, how do we provision then? And if we're not gonna ask for a northern connection in this first one, then we probably need to work back on these maps a little bit on future roadway and understand some more northernly, whether, does it come straight up out of Harvest Hills, right to Flag there, square, instead of it making that right angle? So in the Tice's property, the neck, no, not that one, though that one too, yes, I mean, we'll have to think about that when. I mean, there's been people kicking tires on that 100 acres now for a long time, and people just can't get it done because it's only 9 or 10 lots. It's tough, right?
That you're moving a lot of swamp.
Right.
Holes all over the thing.
Right? That one probably doesn't happen. Who knows, right? Somebody might take a chance on it, but hopefully we don't go to court for 10 years over it again. Like it took the last time after somebody tried to develop it, but
Here around, this is all swamp.
so. Okay,
You're pretty
It-
safe if you dedicate right of way, because you're covered all bases.
I don't even know if it was worth dedicating the right of way for, to be honest with you, because again, you know daggone well, if it's not gonna happen, it just isn't. Even if you tried to do it, the pushback on that would be so high.
Yeah, I mean, in practice, what happens is
Mhm.
the county likes to remove accesses, not add them. And I
Yep,
mean, we saw that when County Road 27 was reconstructed
yeah,
north of 21.
well,
We lost a couple of,
Leroy and I were on the
Three connections.
27 study. That
Right.
was the whole motto of the study, was remove access. Yeah.
Right.
That was back in 2013, so it's been a long time, yeah. So,
This is low 3 here.
all right, I'm fine with not having the access, considering the northern connection, that might not be the right connection spot for it. I don't know that it's worth dedicating another half a easement there, because again, those things don't ever seem to fall into place either. Would we have to change our comp plan? Because our comp plan dedicates our transportation plan and our comp plan dedicates an access there?
Mr. Mayor, no, we don't need to do it any sooner than doing the 2050 plan. That's
Okay.
not an official control. And so we're not required to make an adjustment.
Okay. All right, other questions?
So I do have one follow-up question now, because I've been researching the Munchell property. Why is that in here? So that is in 1 and 3 little I's. The plat shall be updated to show where a driveway could be accommodated for 21,480 Texas Avenue. Why is that even part of this plat when it's not part of the plat?
So it was part of the first edition, which created Outlot A, which is where the 12 lots are gonna be.
Okay.
So
So what does the developer have to do? They have to move their driveway off of 27?
no, so all the counties requesting at this time, and we discussed this when we had some pre-calls with Craig Jensen as well, is that they're just looking to have it noted on the plat where it could go. They're not asking it to be removed at this time. Craig's Shane, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he just would like it shown where it could go so that it's represented on the plat. So at the time where it could be moved, there is space available for it on the plat. That's my
So
understanding.
provide space, but don't dedicate right away
No,
for it
I'm
or
sorry,
easement for it?
dedicate right away so that at the
Okay.
time when it could be, it doesn't have to be moved in the next 5 year, next 7, they just would like it shown on the plat.
Okay, and the developer was okay with that new?
Well, so that was a condition of the first edition
Oh,
of the
it was.
resolution, yeah.
Mhm.
Bill,
Okay.
when the Munchell thing got split, part of the discussion at that time were the bypass and turn lanes. And the driveway was coming out into the one lane.
Right.
That's why it came up about. the
Okay,
driveway.
so it's a condition which already been agreed to.
So,
But I think, so the ask, what Gary was asking is that if they intend to go back to the county and ask for that to be changed.
Okay,
He's asking that we would be flexible and note it in our resolution that if they do get it changed, that we'd be okay with that being changed,
okay,
that makes sense.
and,
right?
yeah,
Is that
Okay.
an okay? 'Cause I
We
see
do that?
Peter looking at this like, going, what the heck are we doing here?
We have a little revising at the table to do, Your Honor. Two ways to handle that. One, you could make a note here
Mhm.
that if the county changes that, and it's no longer a requirement of the first edition, it won't be a requirement of the second edition.
Mhm.
Or between now and when the final plat comes in, hopefully they have it resolved and you blessed it at the time you blessed the final plat by waiving that condition.
Okay,
Either way either of those two patterns would require an extra
Mhm.
trip to council from the developer.
okay,
And if I may, the conditions that we've been talking about, the Northern Road and the cul-de-sac, are listed in the current resolution in front of council as examples of the comments of the city engineer's report and the staff report that are all being incorporated in here. And so I think we need to flip that to say they have to meet all those comments except for the ones you're saying you don't want them to have to meet. We need to flip the verbiage of
Okay.
when you make the motions. Assuming that there will be a new motion. I know there's still a motion that you haven't called yet.
Yep. Okay. Everybody get all that?
Well, I could try. First of all, I'm gonna withdraw my motion and
Thank you.
restate it. I'll make a motion to approve, resolution 2026-10 with the following modifications, not accepting staff's recommendation to extend the northern piece, which is outlined in the resolution, section 1.triple-i's. I'm sorry,
Double.
2,
Mhm.
double I, which is, I'll read it. The developer shall provide an updated preliminary plat that supports Northern Street connection prior to submit a final plat. That would be removed. And any discussion with that staff had recommended, that would be not accepted.
But all of the other staff
But all
comments
the-
would be.
But all the other ones, will
We're gonna take out 1, 2, the connection to 27. Hang on, let's read that first.
I thought all that was taken care.
Well, so again, okay, it is and isn't. This
Okay.
particular one is recommending a temporary right of way be
Oh.
dedicated
Right.
Based on.
Okay,
based on the county's letter. So you can leave it in there if you want to. I would say if we're not gonna require a connection, then I would say, why would we have the right of way?
okay, then I would like to remove 1.i and not accept staff's recommendation related to that.
Okay,
Your Honor, may I restate that motion?
Yes.
yes.
Please.
Please, because I don't understand it.
I think you said
I
it.
think he's right.
So, Your Honor, I believe the motion on the floor is to adopt the resolution with the
Yes.
following
Hang
changes.
on one sec, guys, please, let's listen because Peter's gonna note the resolution change here.
So the motion is to adopt the resolution with the following changes. Under paragraph 1, all of the comments within the memos from the city engineer and city planner will be accepted, will be with an A, accepted. But the following recommendations of the comments from the city engineer and planner will not be required. Romanet I and Romanet II.
Thank you.
Perfect. You accept that
I
motion?
accept that motion.
Second.
Okay, I second that. All right. We have a motion, a second. Abe,
Just one quick question. So we keep referencing the Scott County letter. What letter are we referencing that came in after the planning commission meeting?
came in right before the planning commission meeting. It's an email. It's right before the resolution. Sorry, it's right before the environmental memo. It's from
Page 105.
it's from Craig Jensen. It's actually from the emails from Shane, because Craig sent it right to Shane. Did you find it there, Abe?
Yeah. So with the motion that's on the table, we're going against what Scott County is asking us to do.
Scott County is saying that's a compromise that's possible. But yes, in the end of the day, we're just saying that if we're not gonna do the,
Oh.
if we're not gonna put the cul-de-sac in, we're not gonna worry about the easement there either.
Okay, they use the word prefer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good?
Yep.
All right, so I've got a motion and a second to approve resolution 2026-10 with all the changes that our attorney so elegantly stated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none? Oh, one nay?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes 4-1.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
may I ask that you direct staff to bring a cleaned up resolution that makes all those changes for your next consent agenda, because this will be entitlements. They're gonna want a clean copy of
Yeah,
it.
please do.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just to
Yes.
clarify, there was no changes regarding the driveway.
Yeah, at this time, I think
this time.
upon Planner Strickler's recommendation, we will handle that at final plat if they get that handled between then and now.
Yep.
All right. 7.4, approved task order for the 2050 comp plan from MSA. Steve, do you got this one?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is essentially the contract for MSA for the 2050 comp plan completion. This would fall under the general agreement that was approved under consent. So this would be the task order or the work that falls under the comp plan. I believe what Council Member Zonto is pulling it for is the blank dates, because there isn't a start date and a completion date.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I wanted to have that further that conversation, Councilmember Margaret brought up last time, and I definitely agree with it. I believe that we've got a lot of these work sessions that we've got set up there to start addressing some of these topics. And I'd love to go through more of that before we start going to the comp plan. So if we're gonna sign this at blank and it's open-ended, I'm fine, but if it's gonna need to require a date on here, I want to make sure that we delay that at least until, I don't know, at Q3, Q4.
So what if we change the terminology, says approximate start date in the contract right now? Would you want to say not before?
Yeah, I mean, so our next workshop is gonna be March, April. I've heard that we're probably gonna be doing sewer study that our city engineer potentially has talked through for those two. We won't even be getting back to some of these other topics until May, June,
Mhm.
July. So I would say I wouldn't want to start before October.
Sure. So I guess would you want to change that language, just say not to begin before October 1st? Then we can leave the actual start date a little bit more open-ended after that.
Yeah, I would be fine with that.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Jay.
You know, what the other value of these workshops is to get into the budget, and that would be the assumptions that we've used plenty of workshops to get our budget done much earlier this year than we did this last year. So, you know, as long as we're aware that we're not using October, November, et cetera, for budget related things, you know, I'm fine with that. Otherwise, I think we should be thinking about trying to make sure that we either set up some more time or we'll do something else with this.
Yeah, I mean, just as long as we don't, I mean, really don't
Don't do it
completely
before.
engage the process before, right? I mean, that's really, I think what Councilmember Zonto is saying is, let's not turn around and start tomorrow, because we have some other details to cover. Okay.
I have some comments. I would prefer, so I went back and looked at when we submitted the 2040 plan, and we submitted it on 9/30/18, which was 3 months before the deadline. If we were to start this plan today, so March of 26, we'd be done August of 27, which would be, a year and a half ahead of the thing. We did it in October, we'd be 9 months before the deadline. If we did it in July of 27, started the process, we'd have 18 months, that's, if we believe that trend or that timeline is accurate, we hit the deadline. There's things I just read and you guys may have read it too today. There's another bill being introduced in the House, similar to last year's bill related to housing and zoning and all that crap. They say it's better a little bit, but it still takes away it just still takes away our ability to control. And I don't want to be working on a plan where by the end of it, it would, changes they're proposing would go into effect in January of 28. I don't want to do a whole bunch of work this year in 26 and have to change it. So as a compromise, rather than July and rather than October and rather than March, I'd like to start it on no earlier than January of next year. That would be my preference. That still gives us this 18-month process, and it gives us a 6-month buffer before the deadline. And we filed it 3 months before the deadline in the last plan.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I think, I don't think we can take the last plan and say that it's gonna run the same timeline, right? I think there's differences this time around. I think we wanna spend more time disciplined on it, though. So, no, it still leaves plenty of time, 6 months. Don't disagree.
We cramped a lot of stuff through, get that thing passed, too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't see why we don't look at it to try to make sure that we start some things, whether we fully engage it later. I think there's plenty of things that we can actually start to do.
We can talk in
As soon as we can.
workshops that are free right now, and
Right,
we can
right.
do all those internally.
Yeah.
And then so MSA can plan for their work. We just give them a date. You can start on January 1st. That'd be,
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yeah.
Just a couple of things. So in terms of, so it's a lump sum contract. So our meeting attendance it's not per meeting. It's as you're paying currently in our hourly fee for planner of record. But also, as I think some of the council members have said, we don't want 3 months to all of a sudden whoosh, have a bunch of edits back. And from the last cycle, now this year they have provided some checklists and things that are much better organized than the 2040 process, but I still anticipate there's going to be a lot of back and forth. We're going to have what we think is the perfect plan that fits the checklist, and we're already seeing some discourse with that, with some other communities, not just in Scott County, but from discussions of the system statements and some of the wishy-washy responses that we're getting a little bit from the Met Council. Another thing is we aren't anticipating that we would attend every single council workshop, especially because we did include that the planning commissioners, could be a part of that working group. And so I understand, like, when it's heavy budget season and things like that, we want to anticipate that we might not meet on the comp plan for 2 months because you need that dedicated hour for a budget workshop. So with a more extended period, it does allow us to pre-plan when we can. With Sue, when does she need a workshop? When do we need a comp plan workshop? When can it maybe work better for the planning commissioners? And there might be times where they can't join, and that's just how it's going to work sometimes. But we can also allow for virtual attendance too. The other thing is when you do your summer council meetings in the parks, that's also a really good opportunity for us to start spreading the word on public engagement and continuing to get that we initiated that as our whole first phase. And so while we're gathering that and pushing that out, I'm not anticipating that I would attend a lot of workshops because I won't have anything to report to you until we know what the community is doing. And while you do that, you'll be doing that both summers. Next summer, I'm concerned that we want to start really developing goals and policies by then, because that's the driving from what we've heard over the years. So we can certainly come back with a more outlined schedule when you decide on a start date this evening. That kind of starts to anticipate when we might see, okay, if we're going to gather engagement and attend your summer meetings and try and get almost like a pop-up meetings type thing, get gathered. I know you said that sometimes it's a lot of the same people, but that's okay.
But we also haven't advertised it as best as we could either. So.
Right.
Well, I think if you advertise it correctly, you can get people that
and if they want to talk about comp plan.
Yeah.
So that's something, as you guys were talking about that a few meetings ago, getting those schedules, that I thought to myself, we built in neighborhood meetings into our scope. Why not do them when you're already noticing those meetings? So, and again, that can be we could do that all summer long and have our we could have an initial kickoff, do that all summer long, and then have a real second kickoff once we've heard from the community, get a big input kind of after your budgeting season.
When we do those next year? I mean, it's, you told us it's an eight, sorry, I'm not letting you
No,
answer.
go ahead.
You said it was an 18-month timeline process. It sounds to me like your comments just now says you don't know if it's 18 months. You might think it's longer than that. I'm assuming it's 18 months with a 6-month buffer in there for getting approval from other cities, which is a long time.
Sure, we scoped an 18-month process, which is what traditionally a comp plan process, if it didn't have the Met Council adjacent review and all of that, is about a year-long process. We scoped it 18 months with the anticipation that we would come every month, we could submit it early, and then you would be done. You wouldn't have to worry about back and forths, and it would be approved by the council, and you could start utilizing your new plan instead of getting some applications and questions from residents where we have to say, sorry, we really can't do much about this until we have an updated comprehensive plan, because we're getting those questions at a staff level, and you know, we've the sewer study that's working, and all of the other studies that are a part of the comp plan. You know, we're kind of in this waiting pattern until the new plan is adopted. That's why we scoped an 18-month period. If the council is concerned that a monthly meeting for 12 to 18 months isn't viable with other things that you want to work on a workshop level, we can adjust our scope to work and still get it submitted early enough that we're not too worried about pushing to the deadline, getting back and forth comments, because you can do a pre-submittal review with the Met Council before you do your public hearing. We can say, here's our final draft. It's not adopted yet. Bring us back comments. But if if Mackenzie has that for 7 other communities that happen to submit that same month, maybe, you know, I don't know. It can backlog. And last year last cycle, they actually ended up changing because they were so backlogged, they changed the deadline within the state law requirements to
What's wrong with
accommodate
that?
There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, we don't know if that's going to happen this year. Like I said, they had a lot of lessons learned from the last cycle. They're trying to be more efficient this year. So that's why we scoped an 18-month. That's what we would normally scope. But if you need it, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, Abe, you look like a report. Say something.
Well, as I'm looking at page 45 in our packet, you've got your calendar out there. And I do believe it makes sense to, you know, the neighborhood meetings, the getting out, it may be opportunistic to do that first, but then maybe what we do is we adjust that instead of an 18-month, back to your point, maybe we start in October, January, whatever date that is, allow enough time for the neighborhood meetings, because I think those are running until September.
Right. Yeah.
To be able to get the surveys and the stakeholder interviews, all that done, and then be able to start back then in October, maybe with budget season, maybe it is lining up more towards December or January. And then be able to, we're still utilizing those 4 months, we're just separating it out a little bit more and starting the comprehensive plan documentation then later in the year versus doing it. It looks like parallel the way I read that right now.
Yeah, because again, we like to consolidate the process too, because while we have the initial engagement from the public, we have a lot of momentum from that. It can kind of dribble off. I'm not really worried about that here in Credit River. You have a really involved public. And hopefully if you do hire a communications intern, that can certainly help with some of the stuff, but we want to keep people in the loop. And it's helpful too that the meetings are going to be on your regular workshop schedules. We're not scheduling for a random, you know, Wednesday night at 6 p.m. That's not on the typical city schedule, things like that. So I'm not too concerned about that. But that is also why we do a more condensed process, just a pro con.
Question.
That's Jay.
Looking at this whole thing, are we really planning on a very, very short period of time for the Met Council to happily greet whatever we bring to them? When, you know, we know at this point that essentially what Credit River wants is absolutely polar to where the Met Council is.
Yes.
Are we allowing, you know, is this allowing enough time to really play a chess game and make sure that we try to get some things, or do we wind up running into a hard close date by not starting it soon enough?
Yeah.
to really think about and look at planning how to do this thing. I
Mhm.
mean, there's a lot of, I mean,
Mhm.
essentially what the community wants is not what the Met Council is going to grant. And, you know, we even saw a little bit of that in the workshop, that, you know, was pure evil. You know?
Yeah.
But,
Well-
you know, at that point, I think we should, you know, we shouldn't be, we should embrace the extra time we have. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to finish a little early versus running it up to the end and being done, because my guess is that we should really ask for and plan for what we really want. And it's gonna get shot down probably, but then at least have our strategy to take it to get what we need.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for your city administrator, but I think that's why you released the RFP as early as he did, or brought it to council for the consideration and release, because we know there's gonna be a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of back and forth on Seward communities that we've worked with, that we know we're checking all of the boxes, and yet somehow they are interpreting the box completely different. So that's just the reality of this process, and you are in a very unique situation with your current USA and the split designation and all of the really fun things that we get to work on.
Yeah, so we should really.
What was it? Mayor
Like,
Kelly,
clean it.
Mayor Kelly last week said in Savage, a built out city. And the Met Council system statements showing odd stuff for them that they're like, where? The city's built out.
And even Elko Newmarket, who's not in the new set, is getting pushed back from the Met Council.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Mr. Terry mentioned that too, yeah.
I recommend we start it as soon as we can, but then, you know. Mostly not to finish early, I mean, not to have it, but at least to finish the processes so that we have a way of dealing with setbacks in it as we go.
I'd be happy to bring the council an updated schedule based on kind of what I outlined in with the breaking up and the spreading out of the workshops, if that would be helpful for your discussion. I
Yeah,
can bring
well,
that to
I
the
mean,
next council meeting.
Yeah, I just look at it, the more data that we can collect on the front end. And it gives us a better tool to deal with. Proving our point of what we wanna have in this thing. Because, you know, we all heard somebody tell us that, oh, this is everything, you plan everything, we don't have anything to do with it. That was the biggest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, it was,
Well, typical
They fib.
company line that they give.
yeah.
Yep. All right, somebody ready to make a motion on this thing?
I'll make a motion that we start January 1st, 2027. That's the date you put in to start date, and then you would put the end date 18 months later.
Can we define what does start really mean? I mean,
It
what
means-
do we need a date? So, you know, as I look at this plan, if I may, Mayor.
Yep.
We've got 2 neighborhood meetings. We've got, you know, a pre and a post. In my opinion, do the pre in this summer, do the post next summer, and then we've got that space in between to actually do this, which allows us also to get in front of it with these meetings. So I'm all for kicking it off now, assuming we don't start the comprehensive plan documents and stuff until later in the year when we have the workshops and we've got the neighborhood meetings. And so I'm saying if we can extend it out, I think that makes a lot more sense. So that's why I'm asking, what does start really mean?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Start is the date we need to put in here. The approximate start.
MSA agree that to
Well,
what I just
when is
said,
their
or-
end date then, though? Then their end date is 18, you've only
Well, it's not
priced
18
out for
months.
18 months,
She said,
didn't you?
It's what we initially proposed. That's not, though, we can adjust that. Once you give us a start date and a direction, we can amend our timeline. If your direction is spreading it out, doing it a little bit longer, but still submitting early. Like I said, I'm happy to provide a draft, but you can still make a motion on this item with our adjustment to our timeline.
All right, so I've got a motion by Markert. Is anybody gonna second that one? Hearing none, motion fails for lack of second. Does anybody have another motion they'd like to make on this item?
So can I ask one more question for?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what dollars and cents at the end of the day, if we expand this out, what I'm hearing is nothing changes. It's just you're changing what this scope or timeline looks like.
Correct. Yeah, the scope is remaining the same. We're just extending out the timeline. So the lump sum that you see on the contract is what the city would be charged. Yeah.
Okay. Could I make a motion to just strike the start and end date from this and approve the RFP or the quotes and have Claire come back with a proposed amended timeline?
Second.
Hang on one second. Legal.
Or do we have to ask for a whole new quote?
Your Honor, council members, I think the one timeline piece that you do need in the task order is their deadline to complete their work. And what you could do, for example, is we want it a deadline of X. It can start now, but the first thing in their scope is to work with you on calendaring and how and when they're going to do it, with the understanding that the lump sum doesn't change. But I would recommend that you have a deliverable date in the contract.
If it helps, all comprehensive plan updates must be submitted by December 31st, 2028. Now, again, that could be, there still could be, last time there was back and forth after that date. So while we will stick to the Met Council's timelines, we'll, there could be more back and forth after that final submittal. That's all I want to let you all know.
Isn't that when there would be back and forth? We have to submit it by
No.
31st.
Yes.
And then
Yes, that is
and
correct.
then it's back and forth. And we have,
Unless we do the pre-draft submittal, which hopefully that would do it. And I would highly recommend, since we're done early enough with this timeline, we will have time for that. But the date, yes, is December 31st, 2028. And then there could be some back and forth, yes.
Your completion date to be 6 of 28?
I think that'd be good. 6 months early.
Okay.
So
amend your motion?
I would amend the motion to, how do I want to say it? The approximate completion date being June 30th of 2028. With MSA first tasked to look at the timeline and look at when we would begin and how to extend the timeline versus the 18 months.
Perfect. All right.
And I'll extend a second.
Motion by Zanto, second by Sutterbach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. With that, let's quickly go around the horn. Any staff and council member reports? Legal?
Your Honor, on County Ditch 4, we've had some communication from the county suggesting that they wanted us to submit an incomplete petition before they will decide whether they will do the engineering report they decided to do for us. Steve has asked me to respond to their lawyer, making it clear, council's already voted that this is what you wanted to do, so we expect you to do the engineering report. That's in my basket. I will get that done and hopefully it will have some progress to report in the near future.
Perfect, thank you. Planning anything?
Nope, nothing to add.
A lot of planning tonight.
Yeah.
Administration, no?
No.
Leroy?
If it keeps warming up, we may have to grade the roads, so. Get bumpy.
Do we need to talk any more about presentation at?
Yeah, just a reminder, I think Steve had highlighted that in news notes last week, making sure that March scale meeting will have his credit rivers for that. So if you have anything part of that presentation, make sure you get it to Steve.
when will that be prepared and when will it be sent out to council for review?
It'll be this week. It needs to be submitted to scale by the 11th. So
You would want
be on
comments way before that, like
Yeah.
what day is the 11th?
next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, so you want comments back by Monday?
Yeah. So I'll have it to you before the end of this week to
Okay.
look over for the weekend.
Great.
Oh. Anything else? Bill, anything?
No, just to what I mentioned earlier, the concern I have with what the legislature is gonna go through now, starting talking tomorrow on zoning. That's concerning.
Yeah,
Um,
that coalition's getting bigger, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's awful.
Something's gonna happen there. Hopefully a compromise in there.
Did you read it? Because I didn't understand one piece of it. We're a class 4 city. And it doesn't say anything about what options we have to take for class 4 cities. It stops at class 3. So what does that mean?
They get to.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What it means is they're trying to take away local control.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Next workshop, we're supposed to have a workshop every the second meeting. Do we have a topic for next meeting?
Shane's gonna do some presenting on the sewer study is final, so he's gonna present on his sewer study.
Okay, and then Steve, has anyone else, I sent you some topics for discussion, potential topics in the future. Has anyone else done that?
Well, Abe sent one from the last meeting, which we're gonna kind of roll into the sewer study, which was from the last Met Council meeting.
Okay, and just so council knows this, I sent Steve a list of questions. It was like 3 pages to the Met Council the day after we had them here in front of us, and I'm still waiting a response back, or we are. And maybe it'll be 2 weeks on Thursday. Maybe you could follow up with them because they're important questions.
Yeah, they said it's gonna take some time, cause.
Really?
3 pages, what?
What? But no, they're simple questions.
Yeah.
They either know what you think.
And then they did say that all the financial questions they are not gonna answer because they would send those back to the local authority. They don't answer financial questions. So,
Okay, who do I send those financial questions into?
uh,
You have them, so
Yeah.
could you have?
they would say to send them to your finance department, so
Okay.
that would be soon. But
Okay, I also asked Scott County to submit the 2024 and 2025, I think, the sewer system fail pass reports that I haven't gotten, and I didn't get any last year. And Mary said that she's going to do them when she's done with her year-end reports, which were due February 1st, and we still won't have them. But hopefully they'll update. We could see which systems in our city have failed or were flagged as failing. So hopefully, if I get that, I'll share it with Steve, and then Steve can send it out to the full council. Thank you.
Nothing? Abe?
Kind of most adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Zonto, second by Schomer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Bingo.
You guys are all on book. Thank you.